make sure that why training is so much in focus and the need for it, this will be, we will be highlighting this, the learning process. Many of your organizations have renamed your training institutes as learning centers and all that. So the learning process. Learning, we all know, is acquiring of certain new knowledge, but it is not merely knowledge which is bookish or which is information. Learning could also be related to changed behaviors, enhanced skills, certain alterations in our values. Although values don't undergo strong alterations, it's very difficult, but there might be some change in our values also. There could be changes in our preferences and obviously our understanding. When there are changes in understanding, our perspectives also change. With the help of new information and with a change in perspective, a change in understanding, analyzing those new information, there can be change in our perspective that will result in attitudinal change. Okay, now let us see that why learning is not so easy. Why it doesn't come on absolutely, why we are not so eager about learning. What prevents? Even though we may be very intelligent, we have had long years of learning behind us, then why do we become stagnant at certain points? Here we are focusing more on adult learning. Why some people keep on learning throughout their life, and why some people sort of stagnate. They start believing, okay, whatever I know and what I have learned, that is enough. I can wait through the rest of my life with that learning only. In organizations, we cannot afford to have that type of a laid back mentality from our employees. That is why we need to keep on ensuring that the learning process is on. दिमाग का बत्ती जो है जलता रहना चाहिए. The thing is that we feel very safe in our comfort zone. We feel cocooned and we are comfortable that, okay, this much I know, that is sufficient. Feel safe and in control. If I start or to venture out of that zone, that is the first hurdle I have to overcome. And many people will show a lack of confidence. That can I do it? What if I fail? And as an adult, we have that additional this thing, oh, people will laugh at me. Children do not have that fear. Children have got normal and a very spontaneous curiosity. So they are very good feel for learning. You give them any information, they'll gobble it up. They soak it up like a sponge. Whereas we are reluctant to leave our comfort zone and step into the fear zone because it shows that we have some lack of confidence, and we will try to postpone it as far as possible by giving this excuse, some excuse or the other. Okay, but should we be able to overcome our fear and put this, I would call it like, the gravity, like if you can escape the gravitational force, then you go into the antariksh mein chale jate hain, you go into outer space. So similar to that, if we have been able to overcome this fear zone, then we get into what is known as the learning zone. Once we step into the learning zone, it's a liberating feeling. And then depending on different people's pace, the pace may be a little different from one person to the other, but then we start enjoying, deal with challenges and problems. It enthuses us to acquire new skills. And obviously, the comfort zone has now expanded to this yellow place. It's become much larger, and new learning is no longer something we look at suspiciously or something that we want to keep ourselves away from. It in fact makes us excited and we want to learn things. And when this learning zone becomes a natural phenomena with me or with anybody, then we enter into what is called the growth zone. There is no stopping us. The learning zone actually, it keeps on expanding. Basically, it's a mindset barrier that we have just overcome. In that sense, we have entered, or we can quickly enter into the growth zone, find purpose, live dreams, set new goals, conquer objectives. So we can find out newer and newer things which we want to pursue. We have seen around us many people, elderly people, who have very successfully overcome this fear zone, and now they are not only in the learning zone, they are probably exploring life and exploring many of their, we can call, hidden talent also, which they had never expressed earlier, and doing fabulously. So the thing is that the inciting or touching that fuse, if you can call, of individuals, so that they shed away the cocoon and emerge just like a butterfly emerges, no? So if you can emerge, or HR can make learning so attractive to you, then this is what happens. And when we go to reach the growth zone, there is no stopping us. It's a very strong evolution that is taking place now. So this is the learning process. Do you think all of us, we are doing our day-to-day job? We are so some of us have got so much of responsibility, not only at the workplace, we have other responsibilities in family and society also. Don't you think that yes, somewhere our learning just becomes a little, we give less time for learning? Those who are able to keep it up, and remember, those who reach the actualization stage, they have never ever stopped learning in their life. Never ever. They are always finding new things to learn, even in their own particular domain. Suppose somebody is a great singer, attain great heights, even that person will even try and find out newer way, exploring newer way, newer genre of singing, whatever it is. So they will have never stopped learning. So this is the learning process. Now, there are many domains of learning, and how learning takes place in individuals, that itself has been an area of great study. Starting from how children learn, how adults learn, and what are the taxonomies or classifications that need to be designed in a designed manner, how people can really be initiated to learn. All these have been great area of study. Number of researchers, number of thinkers have done and continue to do extensive work. So we have got a cognitive ability, something to do with our brain, to recall, to calculate, to analyze, to discuss, to problem solve, thinking inside the mind. Cognitive thinking. People who have got good brains, they say that they are more very powerful thinkers. Okay, so be able to, those who have got or are more dependent on their impulsive brain or the dog brain, their cognitive abilities are somewhat lower. They are not able to think deeply or analyze. The psychomotor. Now, the psychomotor thing, some of it is inherent in us, because it is the physical activities. Psychomotor, you can understand the word. What motor is our movements, and psycho is something that is driven by our brain. So psychomotor activities, some of it are normal, like walking and dancing or something like this. When we are using or going into higher skill developments, then we make extra effort to learn, like say ski, dive, ride a car, all these things, drive a car, all these things we can keep on improving or learning new abilities to do things. This will be our psychomotor things. Now, those who are doing psychomotor abilities, those who have strong psychomotor abilities, they have got definitely a greater ability to focus, to look and copy. to look at the environment and learn right quickly from it. Okay, but not necessarily always using their cognitive skills much. Not necessarily. If you become you act your psychomotor skills with very strong ability, definitely your cognitive skills will also go up. Affective learning. Now, affective is more to do with our emotion. It is how we love, how we appreciate things, what we are fearful about, what are our insecurities, the jealousies that emanate from us. See, so these are the different domains of our learning. So we have to, if we can make a combination, use all these learning domains, then definitely our learning becomes more powerful. This e-learning, m-learning, augmented learning, these are, of course, the way the training and the way teaching is done, how people use this media in order to learn. This is an interesting thing to understand, Bloom's taxonomy. In fact, Bloom's taxonomy has undergone revisions and it has been they are trying to make it more relevant to the current times. What is taxonomy for that matter? You've heard of this term taxonomy? Any idea what taxonomy is? Nobody? So nobody from a background in life sciences? All of you are computer engineers or in other disciplines. Taxonomy is basically, classification. Suppose you do a classification of the flora and fauna. How biologists do it or zoologists do it, they will call it a taxonomy. Here, Bloom did a taxonomy to understand or to present to the world that how people learn, how progressive learning is taking place. Look, you can see there are how many circles do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he said that there are 6 levels of learning, or how in-depth has been the absorption of information that has happened within me. For example, remembering. If you just relate it back to a child, okay, let us try and understand it from how it applies to a child. Think of remembering. Can the student recall or remember the information? Look at a child, you show them a picture book and tell them, see, this is A, or this is B, or this is a ball, and this is a cat. Not only a book, outside also when you show. And then when you again point out and say, what is that? Can the child remember and tell you, oh, this is a cat? If that remembering correctly has happened, we call it that certain part of learning, the initial learning has happened. This is remembering. Okay. But can the student explain the idea or concept? When the learning has been imbibed properly, then the child should be able to not only recall, but also understand and explain. So classify, describe, discuss, explain, identify, locate. So now you don't need to ask when the cat is in the child himself or herself says, look, that is a child, that is a cat, that is a dog. So this is not merely recall. The dog is running. The dog can run. Activities that animal can do, they will start explaining themselves. Or what are the peculiarities of that particular animal or that particular picture, they will be able to explain. So they have developed understanding about what they have learned. This is the next step. The third step is applying. Can the student use information in a new way? That is, choose, demonstrate, dramatize, employ, illustrate, even draw, interpret, operate, all these things, write on it, applying. At this stage, as we go up in the different classes also, you'll find that this is how the evaluation of the child is also being done by the teacher. That can they apply what they have learned? For example, they have learned that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 100. The first stage will be remembering, yes, they can count 1 to 100. The second stage of understanding, they will be able to do simple additions. The third stage, when they start applying, then they will be able to distinguish that if I'm adding 2 items, then whatever the result will be, it will be higher if I'm multiplying the 2 items. That type of distinction they are able to make. So that is the application part in whichever subject. So you see, the processing of the information or knowledge that they have acquired is continuously giving them a greater sense of how it is to be used. The stronger that absorption and the more explicit use they can start doing, the higher in the level of this Bloom's taxonomy they are going. Then the analyzing. Can the student distinguish between the different parts? For example, when you have done a training program on credit appraisal, okay, many of you will have done a program on credit appraisal. So you understand the ratios, you understand that this ratio comes from the balance sheet, that ratio comes from profit and loss, okay, all this applying. When you start analyzing, or the analytical ability has become something that you can now apply, then you can take actual balance sheets, and without even the help of your computerized programs, you can straight away start doing all the ratios, and then you can see that yes, where if there are some what we can say window dressing in any balance sheet, that also you will catch out. Then why this ratio looks like this when this ratio said something and these two are not matching, or these two are not matching means they are not in the same range. So that analyzing ability, when you have got even a further understanding of the concepts. Then comes evaluating. Can the student justify a stand or decision? Now merely only being able to calculate the ratios correctly, or knowing from which part of the balance sheet or which item of the profit and loss you need to take in order to get the ratio correctly. When you are in the evaluation stage, then you are able to say, okay, these ratios are indicators that this is a strong balance sheet and here we can take a credit decision. And then you go on even to understand whether or how much or all the other factors you weigh, and then you come to a conclusion that how much credit sanction can be given. In that scenario, not only the ratios, but you might also have pondered on all the other background information you have collected about the customer, their previous credit history, their abilities, their intentions of paying or not paying, all these type of history that they have developed. What are the products that they are making? Does it really have a market demand? So all these factors you have considered and analyzed before you have taken that total decision, not only based on the balance sheet, not only based on the ratios, but all these factors also you have pondered upon and then come to a credit decision. That would be an evaluation phase. In an evaluation phase, you become quite an expert in using the knowledge to come to certain strong decisions. That would be where your knowledge level will have reached. Then creating. Can the student create a new product or point of view? The creating is something that because of your great strength of understanding that you've already developed from your learning, now you can look at, like now I can think of innovating products. In credit arena, the bank is evolving certain products. How? Because their total understanding of the market, the total understanding of customer behavior or trends, this is so complete. So the learning, you can very well see that as the level goes up and up and up, the ability to use that knowledge and information it becomes more and more practical. That means you can put it into place at the workplace, and the resulting rewards in terms of business, in terms of profitability, if you want to calculate it that way, obviously become far stronger. So the idea is that how in the learning process, in the first instance, we saw that how to really make people come out from their cocoon so that they abandon their fear and they really start enjoying learning. That means new things. And then they get into their growth chart. Here we are talking about how people's learning abilities are being evaluated, and for us initial learner to a master, how all these steps have happened. Does this make sense to you, Amit? I've seen it's very interesting to me because I have seen report cards, being given out for children. And that has, when going through that, I have really found that yes, the teachers in those classrooms, they are using so effectively Bloom's taxonomy. In the report cards, they will write, like, for example, in a particular quarter, the child has learnt new things to read chapters. So they will make a remark like, the child can fluently read the paragraph. That means they have learned all the alphabets and the sentences. In the next quarter or maybe in the next class, whatever they're writing, the child can explain in their own language what the story meant, because probably they were being asked to make a synopsis and they have written it. Then in that evaluating part, when that has emerged in the child, then they will say that they can answer all questions related to that topic in their own manner. No rata. So every child's answer is different, but when they have reached that state, then they can themselves answer. And when they have reached that creating stage, then they will say the child can write a new story themselves. When a situation has been given to them, they are writing their own stories. So this is a progress report of a child, how a classroom teacher evaluates and gives. So by the time they have got this creating part, not only they have got mastery in the language, mastery means they have a good understanding of the grammar, they have a strong vocabulary, they have good punctuation and all that. And as well, having been given a topic, they are using their imagination to create something new, not something they have read in a storybook and what they are, being asked to answer to questions from that particular piece, but they are creating something new. Have you seen your children getting results like this, where the teacher is giving this type of remarks? Anybody has a experience like this? So now you know that the teacher is, and then you see, you can also evaluate how your child's progression is happening. So this is how it happens in children's classroom. It is also as much applicable in our adult life learning processes. So HR follows this if they are using the proper learning techniques to bring people into the domain of learning and then evaluate who is progressing in what manner, who needs more hand-holding, or who needs a different sort of inputs, not different sort of inputs to be given in a different manner. Because all people are not making sense in similar fashion. Some get more information through audio, some from visual, some from kinesthetics. So they will have to make maybe a mix and match. Here, like, for example, when we are discussing, we are having some part of visual and mostly it is audio because I'm talking. But you have no chance of doing much of anything kinesthetics because that is the constraint of time. And then in a life situation, that kinesthetic thing is much more doable. Here we are not able to do it much. Learning styles. Left brain learners, right brain learners. They are likely to make a daily list of tasks. The left brain has got special capabilities. It likes to do analytical thinking. It likes to do things in chronology. They have got, that is why left brain learners, those who use their left brain more, they are using these techniques. They're good in maths and science. They have a practical nature and good problem solvers. The right brain learners, because it has got more to do with the spatial learning, it has got more of the emotional quotient learning, empathy, and all these are more of the right brain. So they are much more invested in the emotional part. So spontaneous and emotional, make subjective statements, indulge in imagination and daydreaming. That means it is not only daydreaming, they are creative in nature and good in expressing themselves. So right brain learners display these qualities. When we were talking about brain in our earlier class, that means in HR class, I had mentioned that the split brain theory, we had talked about the split brain theory and how it is very important that we make both parts of the brain, we activate both parts of the brain so that they use their special capabilities. When that is being done in combination, obviously the ability of the brain is overwhelmingly higher than only when one part of the brain is more activated. Unfortunately, many of us are not using, as it is, we are using our brain to a very low potential. Researchers have pointed out that people use only about maybe 30-40% of their brain power. Out of that also, we allow one part of the brain to laze. Just like lazy eye syndrome people have now. So similarly, we allow one of the brain parts to laze. Whereas if both are working simultaneously, then our abilities are manifold high and our decisions are much better. Like for example, see this good problem solver left brain. Okay, they have solved a problem, but have they been able to add a human touch to the solution? That would be possible only when the thinker is also using the right brain. Otherwise, a decision that is taken may be technically right, but it not be probably benefiting people in the way it should. Okay, so we need to use both parts of the brain. Characteristics of auditory learners. I said that people use either their visual or their auditory or their kinesthetic sense most in order to pick up information from the environment. So characteristics of auditory learners is that they talk aloud to themselves, like explaining things to others. They do not follow written directions so fast. They take time to process it. If you tell them, they will understand faster. When they are reading something, they either like to read it aloud or they are at least whispering it to. So many people during their childhood wanted to read aloud. They are the auditory learners. This was their learning style. And somebody is simply scanning the page. And sometimes the mother would call out, have you fallen asleep or are you actually studying? Fellow is studying only. But if he is a visual learner, then they will not at all intend to speak it out. Like being around other people, enjoy the performing arts. These are the characteristics of auditory learners. So by using tools to understand the various groups of employees, what are their learning abilities, not learning abilities, what is the style that they prefer most, HR can make a study of that. And otherwise too, whenever they are designing their training programs, they must have inputs which are audio, visual and kinesthetics in nature, because in the group, several people will have auditory style, some others will have the visual style, someone will have the kinesthetic requirement. So everybody's interest will be concentrated at one point or the other if all these particular aspects have been taken care of in the delivery of the training. Those who have got the learning, visual style, learning, they will, when they see, they understand better. Whatever they see, they understand better. When it is kinesthetics as a dominant style, they learn through moving, doing, and touching. Means they are the practical people, they want to do it by hand. So kinesthetic learners like to move around when talking or listening, and they need to take frequent study breaks also. If your child is taking frequent study breaks, you can be more or less certain that person is a kinesthetic learner. So the learning styles are not absolutely, they are not not in independent quarters only. It's not that a person who is auditory doesn't do any learning in the visual style. It's not like that. We use some part, but this we call predominant learning style. So if by some means we can make people use all these senses more, using the kinesthetics, the visual auditory and the visual kinesthetic learner, in that case, the learning will be more intense and the learning will definitely be faster. That means because we are using more parts of our brain. Simple as that. So absorption of the information, processing of the information, analyzing of that information will become stronger. And then we will think about applying it, creating things. So these are the auditory, kinesthetic, and visual learning styles. If you look around and if we even examine ourselves, we will probably learn new things about ourselves as to which learning style applies to me. And if you have children at home, you can also apply and see that which is actually their favorite learning style. And you can start making certain changes so that they also start absorbing more information or develop the other learning styles also.